Hello, BookTube. I thought I'd do a tech update. Yesterday I had a mail haul in which there were no books. There were periodicals, and then there was a piece of tech. A piece of tech that I was coerced into getting by Mark at Book Time with Elvis. Recently, in one of his videos, he held up a Lenovo Yoga Smart Tab. This thing, which has this very distinct outline. It has a handle where the battery is. And it has a stand in the back here so that you can set it down and just have it playing. It's an Android tablet, but it's just that. Those are the differences, is that it has this handle with speakers going out on either side of it. And I saw Mark hold this up on his channel, and I emailed him and asked him what it was, and he identified it for me. And I emailed back and said, well, I don't know that I need another piece of tech. And he said, if you don't buy a Lenovo Yoga Smart Tab, I'll break up with you. And I said, isn't that a little drastic? And he said, I'm a high maintenance kitten, and you knew that. So I ordered one. What could I do? And I did the usual thing for tech. Once I was done with all of my day's responsibilities, I settled down with this thing. And I reconfigured it for myself. So I removed a lot of the bloatware that was on it. There's an easy way this is an Android device. It's easy to remove bloatware. The stuff that comes pre-installed on the machine, if you don't want it, it's easy to remove it. The customizability of Android is still light years ahead of customizability of any Apple product. So I got rid of the bloatware first, and then there are a couple of rather neat little wonky ways that you can get rid of the bloatware that doesn't want to go. Some of the bloatware, you try to get rid of it and it says no can do, don't have that option, can't remove this, part of the integrated system. It never is. It never actually is. It's just that the person who makes that bloatware or designed it is paying an extra penny so that you can't get rid of it, so they can talk about how many devices it's operating on. There are ways to get rid of those, especially on an Android device. So I spent a lot of time clearing up the bloatware, and then the stuff that was left, I just thought you might find this interesting. I'll keep this video quick. But what I do is the stuff that's left on the screen, if it's not something that I use every day, then I move it into one catch-all pocket for everything. I don't leave any non-functional stuff on the desktop. So I moved all of that into just one glob off to one side, and on the everyday workaday bar on the front page, I put the stuff that I actually use. I also swapped out the tabs background for the Perseid meteor showers. Perseid meteor showers going on. There's Boston. You can see it's what is this? 11 in the morning. That temperature is wrong. It's not 80 anymore. It's 85 or 86. And I've got YouTube, of course, because I'm a very sexy YouTube influencer. I've got Gmail. I've got Voxer. Feel free to Voxer me. I love the Voxer. I've got Google. I look up things all the time. I've got my Nook Book app, because you can hold this thing like this. You can hold it in your hand with a grip without worrying about affecting the screen. You can hold it with. It's got a handle. I found out last night, over the course of 6 or 7 hours, that it is great for reading. Absolutely great for reading. And I also found out the only way you can learn about the battery life. Battery life is fantastic on the thing. It's a workhorse. I read for 7 or 8 hours last night. I barely lost any battery. Reading is a very low impact activity, but even so, I don't think my iPad could have done that. But it did. So I've got the Nook app on there, and then I've got Instagram, of course, because I'm a sexy influencer, and then Wikipedia, because in addition to looking things up on Google, I also look things up on Wikipedia all the time. I'll take this as a little opportunity, my little pro forma opportunity. If you also look things up on Wikipedia all the time, if you are a writer, for instance, donate to Wikipedia. Don't just skip right past their donation calls. Donate. They are giving you lots of value. It is totally unethical to take that value and not give something back. So donate. You don't want to be without Wikipedia. You don't have to pay for Wikipedia, so donate. When they call up, and don't give $1. Give $100 if you can. give $50 if you can. Give something that's if you look at Wikipedia as often as I do, and I don't know a writer who doesn't, then you're getting that much value at least. So donate. It's a little pro forma thing. But the main purpose of this little update video is to let you know, is to remind you of what I was reminded of, which is the drastic difference between the Apple ecosystem and Android. This is an Android device. And Android devices are far more open to the user experience. They want you to mess around with them. And Apple does not. And now, don't get me wrong, I'm an Apple fanboy. I love my Apple products. But in the course of, it took me probably 15 minutes to reconfigure this thing to exactly the way I want it to be. So I've got the Google Play Store in here. I went to the Google Play Store and immediately looked up the stuff that I use all the time. I looked up Google Docs. I looked up Wikipedia and all sorts of other things, and just downloaded them. And it wasn't asking me for my grandmother's fingerprint on her dead, severed hand. It wasn't asking me to go through all the hoops that an Apple product does. If it would have taken me hours and hours to set up an iPad in the time, it took me, I don't know, probably 15 minutes to set this up completely, set it up exactly the way I want it to be. It took about 15 minutes to do. On an Apple iPad, that would have taken much longer. I would still have loved the end result, but it would have been much, much longer. I'm not saying that means anything. I'm not going to stop being an Apple fanboy. I'm pretty sure of that. I don't, for instance, imagine that I could use an Android laptop. The closest I would come to that is my beloved Chromebooks, where I'm outside the Apple ecosystem because I'm in the Chrome ecosystem. But for tablets and phones, it definitely doesn't give me the willies the way it once did. And the result is that I really like my Lenovo Yoga Smart Tab. I really like it. I felt no compunction whatsoever, no urge to reach for an iPad or a phone or anything. I've been using this for 12 hours, and I'm going to put it to an extra test today, later on this afternoon, when I'm done with my videos, and when I'm done with playing with Frida, and when I'm done with a lot of reading that I want to do. I'm going to do a chunk of writing this afternoon, and I'm going to try it on the virtual keyboard on this thing. One of the advantages of the kickstand is that you can put it in this mode, put it up like that, and just type at an angle, like you were typing on a laptop. I want to see how that works. I want to see how that feels. I also did a little fun quirk of mine. I went into, there's a function in the Google suite of functions. Most people have no idea how much functionality Google has. But there's a function in there called Gboard. It's in your Google. If you go looking for it, you can probably root around and find it. And it gives you all sorts of options for the virtual keyboard. And one of my little quirks is that I like my virtual keyboard to make typing sounds. I don't like it to be silent. I like it to make sounds when I type on the keyboard. So I dug into Google Gboard and made sure that that was the case. I'm going to type on this thing. I'm actually going to see if I can get my day's typing done on this machine. And since I can get all of my browsing done on this machine, and since I've already proven to my satisfaction that I can get all my reading done on this machine, if I can get my typing done on this machine, that will only leave one thing left, and that is filming. This, right here, filming. Can I film on this machine? I'm going to give it a try. You're all my guinea pigs. When I went through, just a couple of weeks ago, we went through Techpocalypse together, where all of my technology decided to revolt at the same time. I can't do that, Dave. All at the same time, my technology stopped working in any way. And I had to tinker and cobble and plead and beg and reset. And during Techpocalypse, I filmed on half a dozen things. Just using you as my guinea pig. Because you don't come to this channel. That's the sound that the Lenovo Yoga Smart Tab makes when it has successfully downloaded something. And I asked it to download. I downloaded a bunch of books. And it's not the fastest thing in the world with that, so it's taking its time, and every time it downloads something, it gives me that little chirp. And I can't figure out a way to silence that little chirp. I've been to every single bit of the sounds controls on this device. I can't seem to do it. I'm not all that worried about it. I don't so much mind the sound, but nevertheless, I'm gonna hunt around again because it's an Android device. I feel certain that the control for every single thing I'm seeing is on here. It just requires a little bit of patience to hunt around, or some YouTube videos to watch. But I'm going to try filming on this thing and see if it actually works. See if the camera is acceptable, and I can film and upload on this thing plus everything else. Well, then I've succeeded in what was my ultimate goal. What is always my goal now when I buy a piece of tech is redundancy. I went years and years with no redundancy in my tech life. I had a netbook. I realize now, I just watched a video in which my beloved EEE PC was profiled as a quintessential netbook. Something, a very cheap laptop computer that existed 10 or 15 years ago before the advent of iPads and before the advent of Chromebooks. And that was really only good for what those things do. Not good for gaming, not really good for any kind of internal life of its own. And I had a tech friend at the time. I knew nothing about computers at the time at all. And a tech friend of mine said, you really should get one of these. I can get you one of these from the North Korean gray market, and I'll help you set it up, and I bet you will love it. And I was very hesitant, but I let him do it, and I paid him for it, and we set it up, and I started using that little plastic EEE PC. I still have it, and it was unbelievable. I got so much work out of that machine, so much work. I pounded on that thing. That was my first prolonged typing experience that was not a manual typewriter. I pounded on that thing until the S, D, and A keys had cracks in them. Not just that I'd worn off the letter, but that the key, the plastic key, was starting to crack. I got so much work done on that machine, and I loved it. I hated it when it glitched, because I didn't know anything about how to fix it. Now I would. Now I think I could troubleshoot it on my own, and I'm no tech whiz. Despite the fact that I apparently am turning this channel into a tech channel. I'm no tech whiz. But I think now I would be able to understand anything that went wrong with that thing. I would certainly know how to get around the problems that came up. Instead, I had to call my tech friend in a white rage whenever it glitched on me. But it didn't glitch often. I got a huge amount of work done on that thing. And why did I go to that? I can't quite remember now. Well, one way or another, I'm going to try, redundancy. The thing I didn't have when I had that EEE PC was redundancy. If anything went wrong, everything stopped until my tech friend could fix it. I had no other machines. I had nothing else. I had no backup of anything. And I think as a result of some of the memory of those rages, the few times when I flew into a rage because of complete helplessness, I think as a reaction to that, I have come to fetishize redundancy. I want a bunch of machines here that can all do the same suite of things with the same amount of ease and proficiency, whether I use them or not. I want it so that if one of my machines glitches in a way that I can't troubleshoot, I'm not helpless. I can go straight to another machine and do it. Now, I'm already at that stage. I have quite a few, as I proved during Techpocalypse, I have quite a few machines here that I can film videos on. And it really doesn't take much of a machine to do everything else that I do on a machine. I mostly type documents and then send them. And I've had word processors from 25 years ago that could have done that. So it's really not hard to do all the rest of it. It's the filming and uploading. But a few other things too, the browsing, the multi-tabs, that sort of thing. And it looks to me, if this thing can film videos, then this will be a completely functional extra device. And I'm pretty sure I'll be done with completely functional redundant devices for the rest of the year. The next tech purchase I think I will make will be in 2022. And I think it's an iPhone. I have an iPhone 6S. I really like it. But it doesn't work as a phone. It absolutely does not work as a phone. I've swapped out the SIM card. I've done a factory reset a few times. It just doesn't want to work as a phone. And I'm thinking that if I get just a totally new thing, if I get a totally new iPhone with a new SIM card, and I bring that whole thing touched by no hand at all into an Apple store or an AT&T store and tell them, I want to walk out with this as a working phone. Here's the phone. I'm thinking that that'll be the way. And then I won't have a phone that doesn't work as a phone. had to buy a burner phone to work as a phone because my phone doesn't work as a phone. That's a little ridiculous. And it opens possibilities, right? If you're going to get a new iPhone, maybe I want an iPhone 10. Something literally twice the size of my iPhone 6S. I like how the 6S sits in the hand, but the iPhone 10 is a fully functional computer on its own. It has infinitely greater capacities than the iPhone 6S. So maybe that, but not in 2021. I think this is it for 2021. One of you left a comment. I laughed for probably 15 minutes. In fact, I was on a walk with Frida and I recalled the comment and laughed out loud on the sidewalk in the middle of nowhere, apropos of nothing. People would have thought I was crazy. One of you wrote simply, "That tablet is an abomination." This is my little abomination. Naturally, that instantly became its name. But I'm going to try to see how functional this is. I love it for reading. I love its battery life. I love the fact that I have fixed it. I have made it what it is. I've made it. I was able to reconfigure it to my daily use in minutes. That leaves typing and filming. I'm going to try both of those, and we'll see how it goes. Anyway, I thought I'd give you a tedious tech update. Don't know if I'll upload this, but I wanted to talk through it anyway. So I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.